Oh, sure. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon here on the East Coast, if you're on the East Coast. I want to welcome you all to our October panel of STEAM Dreamers. We're so happy that you have joined us for our Reinvented Magazine panel, where we like to showcase women role models who are in STEAM. So my name is Aisha Laurie, and I'll be your moderator. I am on the Reinvented Magazine team. I'm on the operations team. And so in my day job, I am the senior director for programs at NACME Inc., which is the National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering. My background is in electrical engineering. And so that's where I did all of my studies in that area. And now I'm really focused to really help more women and minorities in the spaces of engineering. So I am actually a first generation college student. So I'm the oldest of 5 girls. And so really trying to not only be a role model and example for my sisters as I was getting older, but that is really where I try to, to show them examples of women in the space who love being in the sciences and math and all the other different areas within STEAM. I have 13-year-old twins, boy and girl twins, who are in 8th grade. So I'm also trying to be a role model to them as well, and just show them all of the cool and interesting things that they could do if they even think about choosing the option of going into any of the STEAM careers. So I'm very excited to be able to welcome our panelists here with us today. And we're just going to be having a conversation. You'll find out a little bit more about them, and you can ask as many questions as you want as you think about going into any of the areas of STEAM, or just more about what it is in those particular fields. So I'm going to introduce, first we have, I'm going to actually let them introduce themselves. I think that would be the best way. And so I'm going to start with Dr. Columbia Mishra.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Aisha. Thank you so much for having me at this panel. It is such an exciting opportunity to interact and speak to high schoolers from hopefully around the world. I am a mechanical engineer with a background specializing in thermal and fluid systems, and I work as a senior thermal engineer at Intel Corporation. Now I'm in Portland, Oregon. And originally I am from India, and yeah, so we'll talk more as we go along.
Yeah, Columbia has a cool story even behind her name, so I'll let her talk about that as we dive in. Next, I have Tiffany Dawson.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here. As you can hear, I have an Australian accent, but I live in the United Kingdom, so I am pretty international compared to where Aisha's from. So yeah, my role at the moment is a career coach for women in STEM. So I help women who work in science, technology, engineering, and maths create incredible careers that they love waking up to every morning. And the reason I went into this was because I was a woman in STEM. So I was also a mechanical engineer, much like Columbia. And I worked on building design. So I helped to design heating, ventilation, and air conditioning for all types of different buildings, new and old. Some were big office towers, some were residential blocks. I worked on some luxury flats. And I think maybe my biggest brag-worthy project was the Stonehenge Visitors Centre. So if anyone's traveled to the UK and been to Stonehenge in the last, I don't know, 6-7 years, I helped to make the temperature in that room on point. So that's me.
Great. Thanks so much, Tiffany. And I'm also happy that we are joined by one of our other Reinvented Magazine team members from our operations team, Ashley Patel. Ashley will be helping us field questions. Ashley is a college student and she attends Ohio State University, and she is majoring in industrial engineering. So I want you all to welcome Ashley as well. So as we really get started, I'm going to start off by just asking you both the same question. just to really talk about like what gets you excited and energized when you get out of bed in the morning. And I will start with you, Tiffany.
Me? Oh, I am so excited every morning I get out of bed. Right now, I am in a role where I get to help people create incredibly happy careers. And for me, that really aligns with my personal values. I love to contribute, I love to care for other people, and I'm also a really curious person. So I get to delve into other people's lives, see what makes them tick, and I help them to create careers that they love doing. Sometimes we go into a career that really excites us at the start, and we might lose track of it because someone else has told us that we should do this or we should do that. I help women to find their true selves again in their careers, find out what was actually exciting to them at the start, and make their way back there.
Nice. That sounds like an awesome thing that really to get you out of bed.
Totally, yeah.
Columbia, so same question.
That's amazing to hear, Tiffany. It's so heart-touching. For me, every morning I wake up because I'm excited about innovation and just working with like really big teams and like on really large interdisciplinary problems, and the complexity of those things and executing on those, like that really gets me going. And I've been having a lot of fun, especially in the technology development side of things at Intel. And it's just been super fun. And just, I'm a big picture kind of a person. I like to know how everything is connected and how everything is working together. And that also means like understanding the people, why they wanted like the product, how the users are going to use it. Like even that aspect is very important. Like making an engineering product which no one will actually use is not very useful. So I really am excited about understanding the way our products will be used, the way we are going to deliver on those product roadmaps, and how we are going to execute it, and what do we need in the front of innovation to close those roadmap gaps. And it's just like very exciting times right now, and a lot of exciting things are happening in the semiconductor industry and consumer electronics, and it's just amazing to be in the right place at the right time.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I think we'll go to Ashley and see if we have any questions.
All right, so we do have a couple. So this one's for Columbia. What got you really interested in thermal engineering?
Okay, that's a great question. So very first, my first tryst with thermal engineering or thermal sciences really was possibly in 7th grade when I studied heat transfer as a part of physics, and I just loved it. It was just like something I loved. Like we did like this calorimetry, like, you know, those MCP, delta T. I love equations, by the way. And so it was just very exciting. But side story and parallel story, something was going on in my life. In case you were wondering, I was named after the Space Shuttle Columbia, and my brothers are Apollo and Challenger. By the way, Tiffany, Challenger is in London right now, and he's going to start his fellowship at Cambridge University, and he's a string theorist. Anyways, and Apollo, my elder brother, he is in India. He's a software engineer. So the three of us, like growing up in our household, space was like a big thing, and we like just dreamt. Our parents thought that we are by naming us the way they did, they felt like we are going to be a part of the representation of humanity into space. And and the fact that I was interested in thermal sciences, or like really just physics and heat transfer chapters back then, when I'm talking about middle school and stuff. So it just started like kind of aligning. And then when I was in my freshman year of college, by the way, since 6th grade, I have wanted to become an astronaut. So I'm still aspiring to do that. I'm still working towards it. And one of the things that happened for me is like, I wanted to take engineering, because most of the astronauts who are mission specialists, etc., they have like PhDs in engineering. And sitting in Malta, I was dreaming about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. So I just we didn't have internet so much access, etc., back then. So I would just ask people who seemed to be wise and knowledgeable in the town about stuff. And then I found out like, oh, astronauts have these degrees. And on TV there was this Indian first female Indian astronaut, Kalpana Chawla, and like around the same time. And that was like super duper exciting for me. I was like, oh, one day I woke up and like, I'm going to space. And pretty much that's it. And I picked, she had aerospace engineering. I was like, oh, I'm going to study mechanical engineering. And when during my college counseling, like when they just ask you what major you're going to pick, I had the top 3 empty, and my dad was like, don't write mechanical engineering because
looks like Columbia might be having some issues. So let's go to Tiffany for the same question.
I just wanted to say, before I go into my next question, Columbia's name story is so much more impressive than mine. My mum named me Tiffany after the 80s pop star Tiffany. And she sang a song called I Think We're Alone Now. So yeah, that's much more, much more
Maybe
noble
your
than
mom wanted you to be an aspiring singer or musician?
I don't know. I've completely forgotten the question.
I thought Columbia's, her story was really, really cool that, you know, it's kind of like her parents they like predestined for what they were going to do by naming them all after the space shuttles. So that's
totally
cool.
Yeah. I've completely forgotten the question. You'll have to remind me.
Oh, Ashley, can you repeat the question?
So that one was what got you interested in thermal engineering, but I do have a different one for Tiffany. Which,
okay.
Your bio says you're a self-confessed personal development book junkie. Do you have a book recommendation for younger women worried about pursuing STEM?
Yes, yeah. This book is not specifically to do with STEM, but I think this is a book that everyone should read. Everyone should read it, you know, if you've got a woman or a girl in your life, or you are a woman yourself, you should definitely read this book. It's called Playing Big by Tara Moore. It is probably the book that changed my life, and it got me to think about, I guess, my goals and achieving my goals in a different way. For women in society, you know, even up until now, we, you know, boys and girls are treated differently when we're growing up. That's just part of our society. No one's really to blame there, right? But, you know, when we get into the career world, when you enter the workforce, some of the ways that you're treated as a girl doesn't translate to when you're in the workforce. So things like at school, girls are treated well if they follow all the rules and do a good job and don't, you know, boast too much about their achievements. But suddenly, you know, like in that split second where you move from university to the workforce, that tactic doesn't work anymore. You have to start self-promoting, you have to start talking about your achievements. So I think the earlier people can read this book, the better. And yeah, that's definitely a book that I would recommend all women to read, and any man who has a woman in their life to read this book as well.
Great. It leads me to my next question for you, Tiffany. I know you talked about your background in terms of your education being a mechanical engineer, but what made you kind of make the switch from studying that and graduating with that degree and then wanting to really focus on helping other women within the STEAM fields?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I worked as a mechanical engineer for a good 8 years. And through that time, I went through, you know, some of the common challenges that women in a male-dominated workplace might feel. So a big one is imposter syndrome. I know men also get imposter syndrome as well. So it's not related just to women, but we are more prone to it in a male-dominated environment because we're the minority, we're different from everyone else. And there's a couple of other things that I felt were really challenging during that time. This especially happened when I thought that each time I got promoted, I would feel more confident because I'd finally reach that next step. But what I realized was each time I got promoted to the next level, I felt more and more fear that people would find out I was no good at my job. But in hindsight, I was really good at my job, and that's why I got promoted in the first place. But my fear and imposter syndrome held me back from realizing that that was the truth. Now, I was so fortunate. I was really, really lucky to have a manager who understood where I was coming from, and he got me the support that I needed and all the coaching that I needed to overcome this stuff. And when I learnt all these tools and the knowledge I needed to overcome any of this fear, I was like, why didn't anyone tell me this before? This is really simple stuff. Like, anyone could do it if they only knew. So I started telling everyone I knew, like man or woman. I sat them down. I used to create my own little workshops at lunchtime at work, and just invited people to come in. I was like, look, I've learnt this. If you know this, you can achieve literally anything that you want. And I got really good feedback from it. People were like, oh, I never realized that I could overcome this imposter syndrome. What you taught me was really easy and simple. And I can't believe no one taught me this before. And I was like, I know. So that's where I got my passion for coaching other people for. And I sometimes get this question like, if you're really that passionate about more women in STEM, shouldn't you have stayed in your STEM job? And I think, yeah, I mean, I could have stayed in STEM, which I loved, and there would have been one extra woman in STEM, or I could have left the job that I really loved and went and coached hundreds of other women to support more women to stay in STEM. And to be honest, I really love this job. I get really excited about it, as you can probably see. So yeah, that's where I am today.
Great. Yeah, Tiffany, I can definitely relate, completely understand about the whole imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And then also the piece, I usually get the same question as well, since I no longer practice, but I tell people like I really get excited and energized about talking to women and other minorities about the possibilities and things that you can do with it. And I think because I am an engineer, I still get excited about hearing what other people do. Every time I hear of a new innovation or something that's really cool, I still get excited and I feel like a little girl just in awe that these things are still happening and being invented and developed. So I never want to be far from that. So I still look at, kind of what are the new technologies that are coming out, just trying to continue to keep a pulse on those things so that I can talk about that stuff when I do talk to young girls about the possibilities and what the options are. So I completely relate in that way.
And STEM.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry,
Yeah,
my
welcome
internet
back.
dropped for some reason. It was just crazy.
No problem. So we were just talking, I was asking Tiffany about her transition from actually practicing as a mechanical engineer and what she does now in terms of coaching other women. And one of the things she brought up was just about imposter syndrome. And so we were talking about that. And I know that, for you being a woman and also, in a very, engineering is a male dominated field within and of itself, but, in some of the spaces that you've been in within Intel, and also, having your PhD, and how has the imposter syndrome been for you? And you want to share some of your experiences with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very real, and I think a lot of us go through this the same exact feelings. It happens when you, I mean, male, female, both. Like when you are in high school as a high schooler, think about it. Like you're valedictorian, you're doing really well in school, and then you go to college, and then literally everybody in your class is like that, and they're valedictorians from their high schools, right? So so then you think, oh, do I belong here? This person is smarter, and then that person is smarter than me, and feel those things. And am I good enough? And I think that happened with me also, and it happened all along. And eventually, I realized that I must be doing something right. And even and then the thing that really helped me is like realizing like I may not know everything, but there are some things I really know well, and I am going to speak on those, and the stuff that I don't know, I'm going to say it very clearly. So I am one of those people at a corporate world. It's a lot of people feel that they cannot say they don't know something at times, you know. I i don't hesitate to say that, like if I don't know something. But there is a very difficult situation as a woman, because even if you have a PhD, there will be people who will say things like, oh, maybe you have better soft skills, you're good at, like, talking to people. I'm like, yeah, I have leadership qualities. That's what you mean, right?
That's right.
so so what really helps me is talking to people from all over the place. So not just staying put in my little bubble wherever I'm placed at that point in time,
Mhm.
and just focusing on, what are the things that they are doing different, what are the things I have in common with them, and learning from that. And throughout that process, I realized that maybe I am not doing so bad. Like, for example, like getting involved with your professional societies, right? When you go to college, like as a high schooler, you are in a lot of clubs. I know high schoolers are so busy, busy, busy. But when you go to college, you pick organizations that align with your uh, you know interests and hobbies, and get involved with those, like if for engineers, like those automobile challenges, or those renewable energy challenge, like Engineers Without Borders, American Society for Mechanical Engineers, IEEE, AICHE. Like, join these different things, and find friends and allies who will help you overcome that imposter syndrome. You need people to whom you can go and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. And I think there are a lot more average male engineers in the world who are practicing, but only like the best of the best female engineers who continue to be able to practice and withstand. Like, you have to really be resilient, and like really, really, like, not give in to all those pressures that, oh, maybe you are good somewhere else, or you're not going to get promoted and whatnot. Just don't give in to that. Do it because you want to do it, and find people who will help you succeed. That's the key. That's the real key. So don't, like, I mean, imposter syndrome will happen, and I know it's going to happen to me throughout, and I am just going to challenge it, and I will ask friends and mentors and coworkers who can be my allies, and and I will be their allies. And there are friends and colleagues that I talk to, like, you are a very good engineer, don't worry, you got this, you did all due diligence, you delivered. So a lot of, I have seen this very common thing with a lot of my female colleagues, especially, like they say, oh, maybe I don't want to do this thing, I will focus on my other hobby and I will leave. And the reason they are doing it is because of all these biases and inequities and micro inequities, microaggressions they are facing day in, day out. And I face it too. Now I just speak up. And I
Yeah.
speak up on behalf of others and find allies, like super important. And like male colleagues, they can be very good allies once they understand. Everybody has some blind spot, but they don't want to do the right thing. So if we tell them, and they will help, cover their shortcomings there, and you can have a good, diverse, like hopefully very equitable workplace in the future. But right now, it's not there, right? But we are, I'm trying. I'm like putting up my fight.
Yeah, we all have to. And I love the thing that you said, which is a really great tip for all of us, whether you're a young girl or, early in your career or later in your career, to really kind of change when people say something to you and put it in the frame of mind. Like if they say you're a bossy woman, it's like, what does that mean? Because that same phrase would not be applied to as a man. It would, they would say that they're assertive, or something like that. So I love that you changed that into when they said, oh, you like to talk to people and you have good soft skills, to say I have leadership skills. So I love that, and I think that that is a great tip to give to any woman and young girls. How do you change those narratives within yourself? And I think that really does help with imposter syndrome, to say, no, I'm creative, or I have leadership skills, or, I am good with my hands, and that's okay. And that's not a problem. So I think we need to, really help to demystify many of these things that are just always posed upon as these are fields that are for men, but there are so many women, and we're examples of that. And these are great things to be able to show girls. So
Aisha, can you let me into the video chat through the laptop? I am ready to enter there.
oh, yes. Yes. So, yep, you're in there.
Thank you.
So, Ashley, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. This one's for Tiffany. So we know you're an amazing life coach that teaches women, or not what life, sorry, career coach that teaches women in STEM to strike a great balance of work and life. Is there something that anybody that you've ever coached has taught you that you found that's really valuable? Like, have you learned anything from the people you coach that you think is really amazing? Something you even think about?
Oh, yes, I probably have learned a lot. Let me have a think. I think sometimes I get realizations from people who I coach. So, for example, I ran a group masterclass the other evening, so just Wednesday evening past, and we were talking about how to get to the next level in your career. And I had a full-on, structure of how people can map out their careers and just follow this structure, and you'll be right. The one thing that came up was in terms of setting goals and acting towards them. So this woman said she's stepping up into this leadership role, and one of her goals was to do a really good job of this new role. And I asked her to break that goal down into actionable steps. So I have a whole structure of how to do that and make it really, really easy for yourself. And she broke it down into little actions, and I said, okay, what's one action that you can do in the next 24 hours? And she said, okay, so this one's kind of an ongoing one. I don't think I can complete it in 24 hours, but I can start it. And she said it was that she wanted to create better relationships with her team members. So I said to her, that's not something you can achieve in 24 hours. That's not something you can achieve in a week. That's not something you can achieve in your lifetime. Like, where's the end of that goal? How do you know that you've achieved that? And we realized that in breaking that down, that she hadn't made that goal easy enough for herself to achieve. So we broke it down even further and said, by 11 a.m. tomorrow, I want you to have booked in an appointment with one of your team members so you can have a catch up. The thing I learned about that was that I have been really hard on myself in trying to achieve my own goals. I reflected on that today, and I just thought, how many times have I made it really hard for myself to achieve something? And then I have blamed it on the fact that I'm lazy or I lack self-motivation. I truly believe if I look at anyone else, no one is lazy, no one lacks self-motivation. It's just that they don't know how to achieve something. They might feel overwhelmed, or they just haven't made it easy enough for themselves. And I tell this to my clients all the time. And it wasn't until I had this conversation with this lady the other night that I thought, I need to be kinder to myself. If I'm going to set out to achieve a goal, I need to make it super easy for myself. Now, anyone who has a dog or a pet will know that if you're teaching your pet how to do a new trick, you make it really easy for them. You break it down into the smallest steps possible, and you make it so that they literally can't fail at doing that step. And then you piece all the steps together, and then they'll be able to learn how to do the full trick. You have to treat yourself with that sort of kindness and set yourself up for success. So if anyone out there is feeling like they've got these big dreams, like I do, that you've got these big dreams and it feels really overwhelming, and you feel like you've tried to step towards it before and you've failed, and you're thinking, I'm lazy, I'm not self-motivated, I don't have the skills, I'm not good enough. That's not true. It's just that you've made it difficult for yourself to achieve it. So make it really easy for yourself. So easy that a 5-year-old could do it.
Oh my gosh, Tiffany, I needed to hear that. I liked how, again, I think that's still a just kind of takeaway, changing the narrative of, instead of like, I'm lazy, I can't do it, just to figure out what it is that you need to give yourself motivation and how you can break it down into simpler steps for you to be able to achieve that goal. That is definitely a great lesson to have and to keep. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And like, I always encourage my clients as well to think, okay, so you've set an action for yourself to do tomorrow. What could get in the way of it? And most of the time people will say, oh, I might not feel self-motivated enough. If that is the case, then relying on self-motivation alone for you to achieve that thing tomorrow is not enough. You need to make it easier for yourself. You need to make it more enticing. So yeah, any way you can do that, do it.
That is great. Thanks so much for sharing. I'm going to pose a question to Columbia. I know that at Intel, you have worked on a lot of different projects where you've been able to build and design and even create different things. What is that feeling that you get, and what does it feel like when you actually completed the project and you've been able to create something?
So this is very interesting question for me. So I have been at Intel for about a little over 4 years now. So some of the stuff that I worked on went into as a contribution to some big project, which came out eventually as a product. And some of the stuff I'm working on are futuristic, and they will come out in a year or 2 years. But the most satisfying and fulfilling part of my job is to see an idea get into a product, and that's, I think, is super exciting. And also like learning how to polish the idea in a way you can make it into a reality, because it's almost innovation and technology development is something that it's almost like a startup, right? We are doing it inside a big company, but we are constantly innovating. There are things that we are executing like on a regular basis, like doing some regular hardcore analysis and checking if things are the way they are supposed to be, but there are these gaps that we need to fix, and those are the most exciting parts. And I feel that my whole experience so far had been, whenever everything I celebrate. So this is my way of motivating myself. So whenever there are like small steps, right? Like let's say I have a project idea and I go and pitch it, and then like, okay, you go to next level. I'm like, okay, this is a game. It's almost like gamifying a bit, but okay, I got to the next level. What do I need to do next? Oh, you need to get alignment from these people, and like understanding like a very big organization works a little differently than a smaller organization. So understanding how there are a lot of people who are contributing to the project and they may not have known that the other person is working on it. So just being open to that, I mean, and understanding. And one of my motivation is like space programs, for example, they need to be flawlessly executed, and like thousands of people have to work on like very precise engineering things. And like what we are doing at Intel is no less, engineering marvel wise, right? So it's, you have to like really contribute and collaborate and make sure there are no gaps. And if all the collaterals, all the interdependencies, they need to be adjusted. And that's just super exciting. And it really feeds into my nature of like looking at the big picture and seeing how everything is connected. I just like thrive in that complexity. And it was just super fun for me. So I celebrate every step, every project, every success. And I also want to thank, like, I always feel grateful for the people I've worked with, because they're so smart and driven, and they want to, make sure that they are doing their best work. And if someone is not excited about a project, I have realized that it is because they don't see how they are putting in the value. So in those scenarios, I try to explain to them that why we are doing it. And for me also, like, if I don't understand why, in the beginning that used to happen, like, I'm like, why am I doing this? You just asked me to do it. Don't tell me what to do exactly. I got a PhD. And then, and then I realized, like, no, you got to learn the nitty gritties, and then you need to understand how it fits in. And once you understand that, then you're like, oh, wait, this is actually very, this is important, because if you do this, then you can change that decision, and then you can change this product, and this product goes into this person's hand, and eventually some person will buy it, and they will be like, wow, Intel laptops are so cool. And that's kind of
I
exciting.
think that that's a great point that you made, and it really makes a good connection to what even Tiffany just said. Really understanding and thinking about, what it is that you're making or designing and what type of impact that will have on your customers or, your clients. You need to think about those steps in the same way that, sometimes you need to motivate yourself to say, okay, I'm not being lazy, but what is my end goal of motivation? And so I see those things being very much connected in the way that you may need to motivate yourself to get something done, and then how you may need to, motivate maybe other people to really help in the design and completion of a project.
Yeah, like understanding why we are doing what we are doing, super important. No one wants to do something that doesn't have value. We all want to create value in the world.
Right. And I think it's important to, even as students, who are in middle school, high school, and even in college, as you're studying, math and science, you may think, why am I doing this? Like, what?
It will be used. It will be used. It will be used. All those linear algebra classes.
Yeah, like, how is this connected? And I'm never going to use this. And in some cases, there may be those things, but I think understanding that it's maybe not like specifically algebra that you're going to use, but just the way that, your mind is thinking and what it is actually teaching you to do, which is going to help you in your career going forward, even if it's not related to any of the STEM fields, but that these courses and the classes that you're taking are really helping you to really be able to analyze things, right? And to think critically about things. And that is going to help you in your career, no matter what it is that you choose. So I think that it's a good point that you bring out so that students can see it's not only them who are having these thoughts, like, am I ever going to use this? What am I doing this for? But, there are working right now who still have those questions about projects that they're working on or innovative things, and how do we take this to the next step, and that it happens on all levels. So I like that you said that and brought that up, because many times people think, oh, because they're an engineer, they know all the answers, they understand everything, but that's not true,
No one understands everything.
Right. So, I mean, I like that you pointed that out, because sometimes people think that, you can't fail and you shouldn't fail. And failure is a huge part of just life lessons. And I'm sure that's how you all are able to continue to innovate, by learning what doesn't work and how you can plan to make sure you look at the different options for what can be possible to work. So I just thought that that's a great point, and we just really want to make sure we emphasize that for all of our viewers. It's just not that, you're not great. We know that you are great, but it's okay if there are instances where things happen and you may not be successful, and that great things many times come out of those failures. So perfect.
I'd love to add something to what you've just been talking about. So there's two things. One is that I totally remember being in high school and being in maths class and questioning my teacher, saying, why do I need to know this? How is this helpful in the real world? And my maths teacher was just like, it's in the curriculum. You have to know it to pass your test. Stop questioning me. You're just being rude. And I look back on her advice to me to stop questioning, and I just thought that is something that should never be told to anyone of any age. Always question, always question. And I have also realized, so the second thing is that I learned all those maths equations and how things work because, as you said, Aisha, that it helped me to develop a way of thinking and a way of solving problems. So I spent 4 years at university, and out of all those 4 years, only one equation that I learned at university was helpful in my mechanical engineering degree. At the start, I was like, this seems useless. Why did I just spend 4 years getting this piece of paper? But now when I reflect on it, I had to learn a whole new way of thinking about how to solve problems. It's kind of like strengthening this part of your brain to solve problems in a certain way and to even think about things in such a different way. And I can tell that my brain thinks very differently to my other friends who studied law or didn't go to university to study this stuff. Like, they've gone on to do other trades, which are also really important. They might have gone on to do accountancy work. Our brains work very differently in the way that we solve everyday problems. So never dismiss anything that you're thinking, why do I need to learn this? Everything that you learn is important, but still question it. Like, I think curiosity is the biggest asset to any person's life. Always question everything.
Yeah, great point. I know, Ashley, you have a question?
I do. I have a question for Tiffany. It is, how did you, like, what technical skills and expertise did you gain from actually working as an engineer that you think best help you support others in your current career?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I think that as a coach, maybe it would be helpful if I describe what a coach does first and how it's different to a mentor. So a mentor is someone who has been in your field of work that you want to go into, or is a few steps ahead of you in that field of work. So what a mentor does for you is that they give you advice based on their past experiences. I sometimes am a mentor, but most of the time I'm a coach. So as a coach, I help people to think about where they are now, where they want to go in the future, and then help them to decide what actions to put in place in order to get there. And then that's also different to a therapist. So a therapist will look at your past and see what happened in your past to make you act the way that you are in the present. So hopefully that all checks out. So in terms of skills and experiences, I believe that because I'm working with women in STEM, I share the same way of thinking, just like how I was talking about before. Women in STEM, we're often very logical people just because of the way we deal with maths problems or scientific problems. There's a cause and there's an effect, there's things that add up and there's always a correct answer. So the way that I think about things is very similar to other women in STEM. And you can get other coaches who coach on different things and for different people, and they will be more suited for those people. So that's probably one thing. In terms of technical skills, I really think that as an engineer, you spend your day thinking about how to make things more efficient and how to improve things all the time. So you think of things as a little experiment. If something doesn't go right, you kind of take a step back and think, okay, what went wrong there? Let's not do that again. Let's try something else. So in terms of helping other people, I help people do exactly that. It's kind of engineering someone else's life, right? So I have a look at where they are right now, what they're not happy with, what they did to get there. And then we think, okay, what didn't go well? How do we backpedal and do something different? Let's experiment with something else and move forward. And in terms of getting things to be really efficient, all of you are engineers on the call here. We know efficiency is really important for, money's sake, for time's sake. It is one of the most important things that you think about as a mechanical engineer or whatever engineer that you are. So being efficient with your life is really important as well, because our commodity is time. We only have a certain amount of time. You can't buy more of it. So why not make the most of it? How can we do that? So to answer your question in a really long way, I help to engineer people's lives so they're more efficient and more enjoyable.
I like that, actually. I like that
Interesting
a
way
lot.
to think about it.
I like that a lot too, because I think as industrial engineers, like studying that, that's a lot of what we focus on is like, how can you optimize and make everything really, really efficient? So I have a similar question for Columbia, which is related to like how do you think your education as a mechanical engineer helps you as a thermal engineer now? And if you were to do it again, would you still get an ME degree or would you get something else to end up in the same career field?
To end up in the same career field, you could go a few different routes, get a degree in physics or mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, chemical engineering. And I'm saying all this, and like I work with pretty much folks from every discipline imaginable within the STEM field. So in my first role at Intel, as when I was working on optical proximity corrections in computation lithography, we had PhDs from maths, computer science, mechanical engineering, electrical, chemical, literally any imaginable engineering discipline you can think of, like civil engineering, everybody, aerospace. So I think you once you complete your education in any of these engineering disciplines, you can find opportunities, and nobody exactly works in what they study. It's a very important thing to understand. I am probably an exception. I studied it and I planned it because when I got cut off, I think it was meant to be. The physics, the space, and the Columbia Space Shuttle and everything, and my love for thermals and fluid systems. So I basically had made conscious choices along my way to be in the role that I am right now. And most of my friends who got a mechanical engineering degree, I'm kind of diverting a bit from the question you exactly asked, but I want to give you an idea of what mechanical engineers could be doing. So a lot of my friends who finished bachelor's in mechanical engineering, they are now in any and every possible imaginable discipline, like or field of work. Some of them are working in banks, investment banks. Some of them got MBAs. Some of them are in software. Some of them are data scientists. Some of them are professors in mechanical engineering. Some of them become professors in aerospace engineering. And it's and some people are doing like similar work to me. Like, interestingly, the few very close friends I had from college, all of us are in the similar field, so we still keep interacting in those technical conferences and stuff. But in another aspect, if you are a high schooler and you're thinking that, oh, I need to get a PhD in mechanical engineering to be doing that work, that's not true. A lot of the people who I work with, who are fantastic engineers working on it, they do not necessarily have a PhD. You can get a bachelor's degree and you can be working in any of this number of areas at a place like Intel. And there are so many other companies you could be working at. And there are also areas such as, like, you could get a master's degree. I always advise people to, like, before they commit to a whole PhD, to think about, take a break, do something different, and make sure that that's what you really want to do, because it's a very long commitment and it's a very arduous and it's a very difficult journey, and personally also, like, it's emotionally, personally, and basically you're putting your rest of your life on hold for pushing the boundary of knowledge on some specific area that probably you and only your advisor and a little tiny community cares about. So it's a very big journey to take on, and I always say that for high schoolers, right now, think about, like, what subjects excite you, and talk to more people. Like, you're listening to this panel as an example, listen to these sort of panels, read about what are the different industries, what jobs are out there, which degree aligns with your, kind of map it a bit, and just think of the immediate next step. Don't have to plan the whole thing out, and things will change and you will have to make choices. Like, I have had to. Intel first job, I was doing computational photolithography, which had nothing to do with heat transfer. I was like, it was so complex, so exciting, and I was like fascinated by it, and I was having a gala time. But after 1 year, I was like, I kind of want to do heat transfer. So I switched, and you will find opportunities to just make those switches, so just think about what you want to do next.
It's so important to, follow exactly what Columbia's just said. follow what excites you. I think we get so caught up in trying to figure out the rest of our lives. So I speak to lots of people who have just finished college, and they'll come to me saying, I've got all these different options in front of me. Which one should I do? I've asked so many people for advice, and I've collated all this knowledge. Now I need to decide. And while getting advice from other people is really helpful, listening to panels like this, like Columbia said, is really helpful. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what excites you. So follow what excites you, and maybe you'll go down one direction and realize you don't like it. That's fine. That's absolutely fine, because then you've explored this area, you know a little bit more about this area, and you will know a bit more about what you do want to do. So again, like, you have to treat your life like a series of little experiments. When you don't like something, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you know that that's not a path you want to go down, and you can move somewhere else. That's way better than a lot of people who, what they do is they go down a path they don't like, and they're like, oh, I've started this now, so I've got to finish it. And then they end up in a job until they're 60 or 70 when they're allowed to retire. And they're like, I've just wasted the last 50 years of my life. Don't do that. Just follow what excites you. And things will change along the way as well. You change, you grow as a person, you learn more things. And the world of STEM grows so quickly now. So even though you might be thinking, okay, I've got this role model, she's got a really great job that I would love to have one day, that job title might not exist by the time you get there. Or there might be another job title that doesn't exist now yet. So it's really important to do exactly what Columbia's just said. She gave such good advice to do what excites you and just think about the next step. What next step could you do, and just reach for that?
Yeah,
I
great
think
point.
I just want to add one quick thing that this is kind of related to a point we were discussing earlier about, the inequities we face at work, and, comments and the imposter syndrome and all that. It's related. It's related how? It's like when you pick something that you know you want to do, and somebody else, doesn't support you or prevents you from doing that, you will have the energy and the fight in you to, keep going, because you want to do it. So that's super important, and especially for women, it's so important. You go do something that you really care about, because then you have obstacles, you will overcome them because it's your choice and you chose that path.
Yeah, that is so key. Just to highlight the points that you, Tiffany, and Columbia, you just made, do something that you love. And also don't spend as much time focused on what particular discipline I'm going to choose. I think a lot of students spend so much time on that. And like Columbia said, you can go anywhere with your degree in STEM, right? You can do anything. She mentioned there are some mechanical engineers who work at banks. And so you would never think that, oh, they would be working at a bank or they would be doing software engineering. So don't spend as much time on that as it is just making sure that you're getting all of these skills, because companies are changing nowadays and they're more focused on what are the skills that you have and how you can help their company with solutions, more so than what is your degree. I mean, you want to, have your degree, but what skills and what can you offer and bring to the table at that company is what I'm hearing more and more companies are saying. So they're like, okay, yeah, thank you, Columbia, you're a mechanical engineer, but tell me how you would analyze this problem and break that down. And you could do that if you were an electrical engineer or industrial or a chemical. So they really want to spend time on that. So thank you for just, bringing those points out. I know as our time is kind of wrapping up, I think Ashley, you had one last question, and then we'll give each of the panelists, a few moments for them to kind of share their advice to any young girls or young women who are early in their careers.
Actually, that's perfect, because my last question for the both of them is, what recommendation do you have on resources for young women who are going into STEM?
We'll start
with me.
Yes.
Okay, resources. Oh gosh. I mean, Reinvented magazine is a great start. Look, I think in terms of this is maybe not the answer you were looking for, but I really encourage young women to learn to listen to their intuition. This is something that I didn't, how do I say? I unlearned how to listen to my intuition. I think that, you know, young children have amazing intuition. They know what's going on behind the scenes. And I think that throughout my engineering degree specifically, I lost that ability to listen to my inner self because I got so connected with, you know, being really logical, following, you know, the reasoning behind things, that I learned to dismiss my gut feelings about stuff. And that probably is why I got to the point where in my career I ended up being quite unhappy, because what happened was I just followed what I thought was the logical next step. And I didn't listen to whether I actually enjoyed doing it or not. So, as early as possible, no matter where you are in life, it's never too late to start learning to listen to your intuition. So, think about what you find exciting, follow that. Figure out what your values are and never stray away from it. The stronger you are with following your values and your intuition and the things that excite you, the bigger your self-confidence will grow, because true self-confidence means that you can trust yourself. That's, you know, the most basic definition of self-confidence. You can trust yourself. And sometimes we feel like kind of icky and guilty and bad about stuff that we've done because it goes against our values. So the only way you can build self-confidence is to follow your intuition and learn how to do that. So that's that gut feeling. And at the start, it will feel difficult to do it if you have ignored it for a long time, like I did, but keep practicing at it. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. Columbia?
That's such wonderful advice, Tiffany. Even I got some. My biggest advice to anybody, literally anybody, middle school, elementary school, or high school, right? Or college, or someone in a working professional is dare to be you, dare to be yourself. And how do you dare to be yourself? You dare to be yourself by understanding what motivates you, what are your goals in life, how it aligns with your passion, your values, and align yourself with people who will support you, which is your friends, co-workers, family members, folks at work, whoever it is, whoever supports you, get those folks on board. They could have some different thoughts, but that's a good thing. They don't all, not everybody has to think this exact same way as you do, but it's important to get different perspectives. So have those people around you, have your community essentially, and just go ahead and step up, keep doing what you are dreaming of. Because, and don't be afraid to like do some things different than your peers, because just because everybody is getting an awesome high paying job in a particular industry, which is the flavor of the year or that 5 years whatever, that doesn't mean that's going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is what you what truly motivates you, what is your what you dreamt of as a child, as a kid, right? So I think you need to be true to yourself and dare to be you, is my advice. And don't tell anybody that you cannot be it all. Like you can have good interpersonal skills, and you could have great technical skills, and you could be an inventor, and you could be anything. I actually should I want to share with the high schoolers this. I think it's important to share that I enjoy my feminine side. I'm actually Miss India Oregon and Miss India Portland 2019 2020. so that's, and I'm getting my pilot license now to fly. I fly airplanes. Yes, and I sing. I sometimes do online little performances and stuff. And I think I want to be myself fully, completely, and I don't want to hide it, and I want to be animated. This year I have submitted like 4 parent applications, and it's okay to be all, and just know your motivation. So when you get stuck, you can push through, and there are people who will help you.
Great way to really end this panel. Just dare to be you, and you can do whatever you want to do. All of your interests, you can combine into one thing, which is yourself, and be able to do them. I've really enjoyed this. I've actually learned something. I hope you all did as well. I want to thank Tiffany and Columbia for joining us and just sharing more about themselves and their experiences, and also their suggestions and advice. So thank you so much for joining us again with our Esteemed Dreamers panel. We hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our Reinvented Magazine channel on YouTube. You can also watch this broadcast again or share with others. We will be able to record this so that we can put it out there so anyone else can watch it if they weren't able to make it today. So thank you all again. We really appreciate it. Make sure you stay safe out there and make sure you vote. Take care, everyone.
Important.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you so much. It was lovely